David is finally anointed king over Judah, but the moment the crown touches his head, he steps into a landscape where the throne is inseparable from immediate, high-stakes conflict. Hostile neighboring nations are pressing in on his borders. Inside the country, Saul's former commanders are violently refusing to cede control, waging a fierce rebellion against the new administration. David inherits a role defined by a legacy of failure. He is following Saul, a predecessor whose reign proved how quickly a divine appointment can dissolve into a total rupture of favor. Saul's decline wasn't a sudden accident. It was a slow erosion of spiritual alignment under pressure. Now, David faces those same pressures with the same terrifying precedent hanging over him. How does a leader survive this kind of geopolitical squeeze without suffering the same collapse of character as the king before him? Surviving this environment requires a shift in how we view spiritual intimacy. It has to move from an abstract feeling into a concrete operational strategy. With enemies closing in, the obvious military move is to strike fast. David does the opposite. He brings his momentum to a dead stop to initiate a quiet, vertical dialogue with God. This is the input phase. David actively asks for precise directional guidance. He refuses to draw up his own battle plans and then ask God to sign off on them after the fact. Then comes the process. When David receives the guidance, he executes it immediately. He proceeds with a complete lack of hesitation or secondary questioning. We often treat spiritual intimacy like an unpredictable weather pattern, a warm, ethereal feeling that fluctuates based on our mood or our circumstances. The text suggests a different definition, a mechanical cycle. It is a rhythm of single-minded seeking followed directly by unquestioning execution. By conditioning evanouissement on a specific command, David effectively crowds out his own instincts. The internal ambition that led Saul to compromise has no space to take root when the king's only job is to respond. Continuous obedience serves as the only reliable mechanism to keep a spiritual bond intact when external threats are actively trying to tear you apart. This quiet discipline is immediately put to the test in the harsh reality of a physical battlefield against Abner's rebelling forces. Does an internal spiritual discipline actually translate into a physical advantage in the real world? The casualty statistics recorded in 2 Samuel provide a definitive answer. The disparity between the two sides is staggering. Abner's rebellious camp loses 360 men. David's obedient camp loses exactly 20. This 18-to-1 ratio goes beyond military skill. It shows the physical weight of divine support given to a leader who refuses to act on his own. Compare this sustained strength against the exhausting pendulum relationship many of us experience, where connection feels random, sporadic, and entirely dependent on how we feel that morning. The text links the survival of the kingdom directly to these two habits, identifying God's direction and then following it without reservation. Unwavering obedience delivers internal peace, but it also delivers the strength and provision needed for the physical battles you face every day.